home. Another night, another day in America. Welcome to Yah'm saying podcast. Appreciate you. For those folks tuning in, going to tune in. Appreciate you, man. What's going on, bro?
Man, not much, man. Just trying to do what we do when we
Yeah,
can do it.
where we can
You
do it, man. Do what we can do where we can do it, man. You know what
That's
I'm
it.
saying? Yeah, man. More people need to do that, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
Do
yeah.
what you can, where you can, when you can. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
you know, and go from there, man. But
Yeah, yeah. I did just get my 10-year service award at my job, you know.
hey, congrats,
10 years. Goodness gracious, boy.
man. Does it seem like it flew by?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
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 these 10 years went quick.
yeah,
They
yeah,
went quick.
yeah, yeah. The
You know.
military, they don't give you no 10-year award, man.
Oh man.
They be like, they be like, they'll give you no 10-year award,
You
man.
lucky to be here.
Yeah, you lucky to be here. You lucky that you got to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's all good, man. But yeah, man, we got some stuff to talk about tonight, man. We're gonna go over talking about Tim Scott, Minstrel Show.
Mhm.
Let me switch my banner here. Tim Scott, Minstrel Show, caricature of black conservatives, you know what I'm saying? We'll touch on the immigration, the Republicans using it as a wedge issue when they have legislation right now, or Biden is saying that there's legislation. Not only Joe Biden, but there are other Republicans who are saying there's already legislation for tough immigration, but Donald Trump wants to use this as a wedge issue to get folks to vote. So he's telling the Republican Party, hey, don't do anything, on it. Mitch McConnell, you know, is involved in that too, and also Trump lies on the economy. you know, Once again, this is no different than 2016 or 2020, where Trump just repeats things, even though they're lies, there are facts that people can go look out and people can go see, and there's data and there's information. But again, because our news is infotainment, it's not information. It really doesn't challenge his lies on the economy. You know what I mean? When again, we had record second setting numbers uh, uh, in the stock market. People's 401ks are up. The job, people who are employed. We always talk about unemployment numbers instead of employment numbers. That's the numbers we need.
GDP.
Yeah, the GDP. Yeah,
Yeah.
doing good. So the economy itself is doing good. The only thing that's just bad about the economy that Trump not going to touch on, that Biden's already talked about, was is that the greed. It's greedflation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, man. And then there was a recent Pew Research Black Americans that came out January 20. That came out recently last week. We'll touch on that, man.
Okay.
As we're leading into Black History Month. Yeah. We talk about your boy Tim Scott, man.
My
Man.
goodness gracious, boy.
Oh man. Go ahead, bro.
Man, look, Tim Scott was one sentence away from just saying the white man's ice is colder.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah.
Like, you know, using Fannie Lou Hamer, words of Fannie Lou Hamer to switch it around. Like, man, and again, we talked about this, right? That
Mm,
Tim Scott don't talk to no black people in South Carolina. If you live in South Carolina, you know that,
yeah.
right? He don't show up to any black churches. He don't show up where majority black people are.
Mm,
And what he does is then show up in the white spaces and
mm,
then basically take the stereotypes and flip them around.
yeah. Yeah, pretty much. That's what he does, man. And it's a you know what I'm saying? What the the Tim Scott, man. Um Tim Scott is a you could you could look at him as an opportunist or call him an opportunist, right? Most people, I would call him an opportunist, but
Mhm,
uh, you know what I'm saying? And like right now, Tim he wants to be vice president, right?
mhm,
Um, but he doesn't understand that how people the majority of people in his party who are majority white people, how
mhm,
they look at him is how they look at the rest of us.
mhm,
So when Trump was up there and Trump was like really like embarrassing this dude, like, hey, like Nikki Haley selected you, you know what I mean? Because people forget he was a Tea Partier, and now
mhm.
we know today that the Tea Party was not about economic angst. It was about the changing demographics. That's what the Tea Party was about. So Tim Scott was part of this Tea Party group and Tea Party movement. You know what I'm saying? And so Tim Scott, so when they look at Tim Scott, they think that the rest of us need to be like a Tim Scott.
Mhm.
You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? To where we are willing to denigrate ourselves for power. You know what I mean? For
Money
representation,
and power, yeah.
money and power. Yeah, man. And again, and then Tim Scott puts on this a minstrel show. That's really what it is. He got up there, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And he acts like a fake pastor, and he does this. He does this a lot, especially during campaigns. There's an old video from when he was first selected as a senator. He's in this community center or something, and he's on his knee, and he's like, and he's like trying to talk like a Baptist preacher, And then the people said, and you know what I'm saying? He's doing all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And to me, I get annoyed by it. I really do get annoyed by it. You know what I'm saying? Um, because people don't, these quote unquote black conservatives don't understand um uh that they are not helping the rest of us. They're not helping the rest of us. And yeah, that's really what it is. He's using black exceptionalism as a weapon, right? You know what I mean? And this is a critique that I generally have of Black History Month. You know what I'm saying? Critique that I have, and we'll talk about it later. But I want to mention, just throw this in there. Generally, about Black History Month, we always talks about black excellence and the black exceptions and things of that nature, but we don't talk about everybody in between.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So it allows for these Tim Scott characters to be caricatures of black people. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, bro, that's it.
No, man, look. Th this is what we are seeing from all conservatives across the board, right?
Hmm.
Um, this thing that they have to they have to give racists and honestly, it's no other definition that you can really explain the base anymore
Hmm.
besides them being racist.
Hmm.
Whether they know it or not, or understand history, or the policies that make them racist, the thing of it is that he has to make them comfortable because it pays his bills.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's always going to be those kind of people. Man, you can go look at Nikki Haley.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like most why is Nikki Haley losing, you know, votes from Zeke's and those people? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't even vote for her in high numbers.
Mhm.
Well, because she is a character of that group,
Mhm.
because she's imitating another group.
Right.
And this is the problem that we have with black conservatives. They can we can't pretend anymore. We can't pretend that it's all on good faith. We can't pretend that they want to have a they actually want to have an actual conversation.
Yeah, yeah, because that's the point, right? Like, we live in a society where we live in a space. We're in a space to where, people want to be contrarians, right?
Mhm,
Contrarianism somehow, um people want to be like, oh well, I just want to see both sides. Sometimes there's no both sides. Like,
mhm,
to a Tim Scott, there's no both sides to the black dude that's running for governor. There's no both sides to a Candace Owens. There's no both sides to a Jason Whitlock. They're just not. You know what I'm saying? So what is it? What both sides are you trying to see? You know what I'm saying? You just have to call you just have to call a thing a thing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. It s so that thing, with the whole both sides and, you know, black conservatives using, language like, "We're not all monoliths," and so forth. These things are done on purpose. They're done on purpose because, again, you you can't argue if someone say, "Well, we're not all monolith." Well, you look up the definition and you start realizing because words have meanings, and you start realizing, well, yeah, we all don't really think alike. But if you understand how the voting pool goes,
Hmm.
that they polled white conservatives and white liberals, right? And they polled them on um civil rights issues. And even the white liberals end up siding with the conservatives when it got as far as talking about reparations.
Hmm.
And this is what we have to understand when it comes to like black conservatives, because they are the stopgap
Hmm.
between our community actually getting some good out of this country or constantly always fighting. Charlie Kirk just got done saying, um whenever he see a black pilot, now he's going to question his credentials.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And you don't see one black conservative taking an issue with that being said.
Mhm,
And this becomes the problem because they're not on that side to fight racism.
mhm,
They're on
mhm.
that side to help racism.
Right, right. Because they'll both sides it, right?
Yeah.
They'll both sides it, and then it gives, credibility. Charlie Kirk can say that because he can go to Candace Owens, who worked for TPUSA, and he knows Candace Owens will put down black people as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then he could turn on a tape of Tim Scott or
Yep.
the governor in North Carolina. You know what I mean? And on and on and on. Right? They'll
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
somebody. They'll
Yeah.
find somebody. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then they'll get to the moment where then it becomes the language of the victim complex. But the whole
Mhm,
time they are they are playing the victim role,
mhm,
because if you had a society that benefited you for hundreds of years and you get to this moment and you then complain that other people want more or better, you are actually, what I'm saying, like, the white people that are complaining are actually the victims because you had no reason to complain.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Victim mentality and victimhood. And that's why I always say, man, when like people always bring it up, black servers always telling black people victim mentality and victimhood. But the real victims were on January, the
Y
victimhood folks, January 6th.
Yeah,
That's victimhood.
yeah,
Black people ain't we ain't doing nothing like that. That's but
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But again, somebody said it, I can't remember who said it, but basically anytime black people talk about, racism, or racist, people think you're challenging America. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying?
mhm,
That's because, they believe that you know, um that American, when you say American, you mean white.
yeah,
That's just what it is, and you as an African American are not American, right?
mm,
Um, because the one thing that this country consistently does not. The one thing that this country or folks in the country and the majority of people in power
Mhm,
have done is that if it is law or words written into law to protect another group, they feel they don't have to honor those words, right? So we're talking the 14th Amendment and the
mhm,
15th Amendment, which gave Africans who became American civil rights. Well,
mhm,
during Jim Crow, the one thing that we don't talk about is that those African Americans now were arguing that, hey, we have our civil rights, so you can't be out here preventing us to vote. You can't be out here murdering us and not having a fair trial. We
mhm,
have rights in this country, but
mhm.
the people they didn't want to honor it. So this is why you had to have Civil Rights Act. You know what I'm saying? But now you have people who don't want to honor the Civil Rights Act because now you had a Supreme Court that gutted certain
Yep.
voting rights and civil rights. You know what I'm saying? So again, like back to what you were saying, these black conservatives are protecting the power of this group, and they want to basically see where they can fit in. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they want to make sure they get their extra butter on their biscuits. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah, look.
Tim Scott, like right, Tim Scott, he out of the blue, now he wants to get married. You almost 60 years old, homie. You had this woman. Now all of a sudden y'all want to get married, and he smartly, yeah, they're only engaged. So if he doesn't get the VP pick, oh
Mhm,
man, things didn't work out.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
again, man, it's just a part of the show, right?
Yeah.
It's just a part of the show, and no matter on if you're in a conversation with a conservative, it's all a show. It's
Mhm.
all a show from the conversation to what you see visually. Um, and again, as long as most conservatives feel like they're on the boat, they don't care if they sitting here mopping or
Yeah.
taking out the shit. They
They
just feel like they on the boat.
Yep. And their safety on the boat, right? Their safety
Yeah.
on the boat, they're protected, you know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, uh, uh, um, shoot, what I was gonna say was that, oh man, I can't remember I just had a little brain fart.
Yeah.
But like the the black conservative, their whole like I always ask this question of black like in my brain, every time I listen to a black conservative, I'll be always thinking like, what is it that you're trying to conserve?
Yeah.
What is it that you're trying to conserve? Because you can't be out here trying to right, but it always comes back to you have to listen to their rhetoric, and they
Mhm.
tell you what they're trying to conserve. They can
Mhm.
try to conserve a white supremacist system, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
where they fit in, right? They always want to talk about black people on the plantation. But they are truly trying to conserve a white supremacist system, and then they're trying to be the foreman on the plantation,
Mhm.
right? Most foremans were black. They were Africans.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And they were the ones that the slave master would go to, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
to handle issues or problems or get work done on the plantation, right?
Mhm.
And so that's how the Republican Party treats black conservatives. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to you, and to some degree, what also black conservative black the Republican Party does is they find these individuals like a Charlemagne the God. Going back to
Mm.
my point, we're talking about contrarianism. They'll find these contrarians. They'll have conversations with them. Again, the foreman on the plantation. You're the foreman. You are the one to tell the rest of these folks what to do, right? Generally, that foreman can read. Generally, the foreman is considered the most educated, can do math. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And generally, they're like the individuals that they consider black people looking up to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Again, you brought up Charlemagne, and if you listen to Charlemagne, especially in the recent days, right? He's not talking to his audience, he's talking at them.
yes, yes,
And this is the trick that black conservatives do. If you listen to the governor, Mark, from North Carolina,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
Mm,
former governor of North Carolina, and never has he asked any questions of constituents. He has always yelled at them and
mhm,
told them what to think. You listen to
yeah,
Candace Owens. It's the same rubrics. It
yeah,
it and none of these rubrics falls under, well, I'm gonna give actual factual, like, information, right?
right,
It starts from a feeling that leads to giving small portions of information that is somewhat factual, but
mm,
lacks content. But
mhm.
then I'm just gonna yell at you and then tell you it's the liberals and it's their fault.
You're right, right.
It's the same pattern
Yeah, it is, man. It's the same pattern over and over again,
over and
man.
over, man.
Yeah, man. Um, yeah, man. And and black folk, there's some black folk who fall for this all the time, man. They fall for it all the time.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And again,
that
the whole point of black conservative, again, what are you trying to conserve, man?
yeah.
What is it that you trying to conserve? Because again, Tim Scott he leaves from Trump, and then he goes on TV and he starts attacking teachers unions.
Mhm,
Why are you
mhm.
attacking teachers unions when the majority of black kids go to public schools under these teacher unions? How are you saying you're helping the black community or black people, right? Again, it's because, like you said, he does not talk to black people. You know what I'm saying? And once they see them numbers that Tim Scott does not move black people, he will not be VP.
I think how, and again, like, never talked to Tim Scott. I don't really know what his mind, his mind is or whatever, like, but when you watch, like, how it plays out and you look at, the economic portion of it, I'm starting to think that he really believes that helping young kids and turning them into conservatives to get
Right.
to the money is helping them so they can get out of poverty.
Hmm.
And again, me personally, as a man, as a person, like, I don't see myself ever selling my actual soul
Hmm.
on my core belief to actually get paid just from any charlatan.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And Tim Scott, in the area where he's from, he does stuff for black kids and stuff like that. But it's still nefariousness to it because again, here we have a man who is going out here trying to imitate a black pastor in front of a mostly white crowd, using Fannie Lou Hamer, a quote, and he killed his own criminal reform bill
Hmm,
when when he knew Trump was going to lose.
yeah,
He's the one that killed it, and
yeah.
so you know what I mean.
Wh
It was right.
when they had when they had
They
actual
had
Republicans that
exactly
will vote for it.
they had bipartisanship on
Yep.
that bill, and he killed it on purpose because he didn't want Biden to get a win. It's like Mitch McConnell didn't want Obama to get any wins. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Doing the same thing. So
And again, man, black conservatives, gotta understand, like, how does this benefit the whole country by doing this, man?
yeah.
Like, you at the end of the day, man, you can play the games of politics, right? But at the end of the day, if we're truly about America and we want everyone to succeed, why would you why would you support someone who's in the middle or stopping any success?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, success isn't, Nikki Haley telling me that she's moving the retirement age to 70.
Yeah.
Like,
Real.
yeah, that's not good for me.
Man, it's not good for our kids.
It's not good for our kids.
Good for grandkids. Just not. just working
You
for
mean
people.
to tell me a whole generation, which is the generation that she's technically in,
Mm,
like, y'all get the benefit and nobody else does?
yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all can get y'all colleges for cheap and, pay for your college and all that other stuff, and nobody else get a benefit for that.
Oh, work till you die.
Yeah. And and
Work
and if this is the party, people have to understand, why would you hurt yourself in benefit of giving up your vote to someone who is trying to hurt you?
mhm. Yeah. That's because and we're about to talk about immigration here. That's because they can other people,
Mm,
right? There's just they think that these folks coming across the border, you know what I mean,
mhm,
are taking, I don't know, doctors' jobs or something, taking CEO jobs, taking managerial jobs or something like
yeah,
that. You know what I mean? They're working, the jobs that Americans don't want to work. You know what I
and
mean?
paying taxes,
And pay taxes.
and
They
don't
pay
get any tax benefits.
right. They don't get any tax benefits, right? Um, you know what I'm saying? They barely get any, benefits as they're waiting in the immigration for the immigration process to go through if they apply for immigration. And that's not free. It's they have to pay. They have to pay every time that there's a hiccup in the system. You know what I'm saying? It's not nothing, you know.
It's about $10,000 from the rip.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of
Yeah.
money, man. It's a lot of money, and people aren't and people don't understand that process because all you got to do is say, southern border this and southern border that. You know what I'm saying? And truth be told, part of the immigration stuff is later we'll touch on the Black American, the Pew Research is that the southern border is not just people from Mexico or Central America or South America coming across that border. You know what I'm saying? It's also Africans. And
Mhm,
guess what? You know what I'm saying? Some of these folks who are coming across, they're of African descent. You know
mhm.
what I mean? So they're looking at that, and they're looking at what the Pew Research said about Black American population, growing, growing since 2000. You know what I'm saying? They still got us at 14%. I don't believe we're at 14%. But
Yeah, and that crazy? Grew at 36%, but yet you still at 30
we still at
30.
14%. We were at 14% in 1930s. So
I know,
we
right?
we at 14% in 1930s. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah,
oh man, look, man, I don't believe that. My eyes
yeah.
tell me we're not at 14%. But
Well, the
but
math wouldn't math anyway.
yeah, yeah, it just don't math, man. I don't understand these folks. But yeah, man, it is yeah, but again, this is what they're doing. They're just, they're seeing, you know what I mean, who's coming across
Mhm,
the border and things of that nature and the changing demographics, and they're trying to again reserve resources, right?
mhm,
You know what I'm saying? And so, that's what everything's about. But again, it's going them again, this is why I was trying to tell somebody in one in the group about fascism, neo-fascism, and this is why the Republican Party is moving towards fascism. They're a neo-fascist party right now, but they're moving towards that because Project 2025. The one thing that people do not, and maybe I think I'm gonna do a breakdown of Project 2025. It's 1,000 pages, but I think I could do it but I don't know. But but the
mm,
one thing that people don't talk about, Project 2025 is Project 2025, what they're trying to do. The main goal is currently you have a president of the United States. The president of the United States cannot uh basically sign off on laws. You know what I'm saying? The president only agrees to whatever Congress, which is the House and the Senate. That's the only thing the president does. You know what I mean? If there's a law that the president agree upon, and then the president signs it, right? So,
mhm,
so right now he's talking about he had a tweet where he said, "If you give me more senators and you give me more House members, we will codify Roe v. Wade." Right?
mhm,
So he's saying if a bill goes through the House and it goes through the Senate, then I'm gonna sign it. Right?
mhm,
And so, like the one bill that we talked about, that we mentioned a few times, the bill, the HBCU funding bill
mhm,
from the federal government. That was a veto-proof piece of legislation that Trump did not want to sign,
Hmm.
but it had 3/4 of the House and 3/4 of the Senate that, approved of the bill, so therefore, they vetoed the president's legislation, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and so, it's just important, to have that, uh, dang, I forgot where I was going with that.
No, man, you going back to our last show, where we were discussing, like, man, know your civics
Yeah.
and understand how these powers work. Where you look at Project 2025, those power
Oh,
structures
that's where I
are
was
now moving to one person.
that's where I was going. Bingo. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I got you, bro.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead,
No,
finish.
no. It just I was just putting the pieces together, man, and again, man, this is what makes it fascist, right? It
Mhm.
is when or a dictatorship and so forth. Like once one person consumes the power of the legislative branch and judicial branch and so forth, it is nothing that you can do besides on just like days ago last week where they were chanting 12 more years and he said, I didn't say that, but that's basically saying that's the point.
That's the whole point of Project 2025 is to create a king or create a
Yeah.
dictator. That's they want to give the president all rights to yes this no that, yes this no that, yes this no that, and within that they can just transform form government and change government to where yes it would be a fascist government because you an opposition would not be able to be the majority,
Yeah.
right? They will always be the minority, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, and you will have a king. And
Mhm.
so that's really what's at stake. And so you're looking at governors in certain states that are already moving towards doing that. You know what I'm saying? Several states that had to change their congressional maps. You know what I'm saying? So that people can have representation. You know what I mean? Right now, you have a fascist state in Alabama that's fighting against changing their map. They are a fascist state. That is what fascists do, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what they do. They say, "Hey, no, we're not going to do anything. You know, we are going to make sure that there is a minority,
Yeah.
always a minority."
Well,
And
it's
yeah,
it's it's why Republicans use the language of like we're not a democracy, we're a republic,
exactly. Yep.
right? Because it's meant to confuse you
Hmm.
of what a republic is actually is,
Hmm.
and not understand the democratic tendencies of a republic, by the people.
Right.
And again, when you don't understand the basic civics of that language will make you think that the trickery that they're using is it connects to their name, Republicans, right?
Mhm,
That's the basic trickery.
mhm.
And people only hear it at that surface level.
Right.
And it makes you um denounce the democracy part
Mhm.
automatically.
The
Yeah, the
Democratic
democratic part.
Right,
It
right.
automatically because you are assuming that, oh, if we are a republic and not a democracy, then the Republican Party is is the actual rule of
Mhm,
of of that whole scenario.
mhm. Yeah, 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 and what you're saying is that, history, America, the founders of this country wanted to model, America after the Roman Empire. Much of Western Europe wanted to model themselves after the Roman Empire. But the founders of this country really wanted to model a government after the Roman Empire. Of course, you had Thomas Jefferson and others who studied like Aristotle and forgetting um, the actual person that came up with a republic. But anyway, so you had a Caesar. Caesar was the ruler, you know what I mean, at the top. And that's really what they want to do. They want to have a Caesar. They want to have a Roman government to where you have one group of people. You know what I mean? The thing about the Roman government was that non-Romans could not be part of the government, you know what I mean, or be part of the decision making and be in what was called the Senate. The Senate was an area where all the smart people, I won't say, all the people with money and power and who was considered smart and intelligent would come, all the men, you know what I mean? Caesar gets killed. I forget, I can't remember which Caesar it is. I think it's Augustus. He gets killed by members from the Senate. Um, but yeah, that's what they want to do, man. They want to, you know what I mean? Really, really take us back, man.
Yeah, yeah, and if it wasn't for the Indian tribes, at that point in time, uh,
Mm,
basically fighting back on that whole narrative and then giving
mm.
them the tenets of a democracy,
Right, right. Mm,
um, we wouldn't have even had that piece in the structure of the country,
mhm.
uh, or that cornerstone.
Yeah,
Um, so again, it just understanding just a little bit of history or learning just a little
right,
bit more of the history
right.
and understanding the tomfoolery that you hear from the Republican Party, like history doesn't exist,
Mhm.
and trying to use language to confuse people.
Nah, they are, and we gotta remember, man, like, this country was founded by rich, well or wealthy white men. That is what the Republican Party want to return. So the you had we had a clause up until 1865. Basically, you had to own land, and within that clause, not only did you have to own land, you had to know how to read. You know, most plantation owners they didn't know how to read and stuff like that. So, but you had to know how to read and all this other stuff that they had. But mainly, you had to own land or own property in order to vote. You know, or order to and in order to participate in the government, which is why kinda when Lincoln is, running for president, they call him, like, this, dummy basically when which he wasn't. But 'cause he didn't really own land or anything like that. Um, but that's what this country was founded upon, so that's what they wanna return to, wealthy white men who are the decision makers for everybody else. You know what I mean? That is outlined in Project 2025, and like you're saying, it is the verbiage, right?
Mhm,
It is long words, and you think, you know, I mean, it's like, nobody called black people the N word, but they'll call you a thug, they'll call you an
mhm,
animal, they'll call
mhm,
you all these descriptors. Nobody called Mexicans the WB word, but they call 'em
mhm,
immigrants. They call them, you know what I'm saying? All
mhm,
these negative descriptors, you know what I'm saying?
mhm.
The only folks who seem to not have any negative descriptors anymore are poor white people. They don't have negative. That's
Yeah,
because they've becomes the ones that have been uh, um, to align with the wealthy white power structure by othering other people. You know what I mean? They think that the reason why they don't have a job or they can't afford anything is because the immigrants in the southern border, and you're like, but you live in Iowa.
yeah, yeah,
Southern border affects you. You live in South Carolina. You live in Florida. How's that affect you? That don't affect you. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
And being as though you pointed out, Lincoln,
Mm,
and a part of Lincoln, of course, he was dealing with racism because Lincoln, even though he got moved into the white, um, you know, uh, culture, um, the oh my goodness, he was a certain type of it
Melungeon.
was yeah, Melanchon. That's
Yeah,
what it's
it's
called.
called, yeah, folks who were, German, African, and,
Yes.
Irish. and one more in descent. Yes,
Yes,
but Lincoln was
and
a
so
racist. I don't know.
yeah, 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 yeah. Look, we getting back to black conservatives, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
look, this stuff is old as time,
Mhm.
and people are playing as they it's original thought,
Mm,
and our behaviors are different, and it's like, no, we just are repeating the same behaviors that our
mhm.
forefathers and others had, because
Man, and
these are just habits.
yeah. And, I think part of it is that, when we learn about, like, Martin Luther King, right? Or
Mhm.
or we learn about the civil rights. We don't teach about the black people who oppose civil rights,
Yeah.
right? You don't teach about, Clarice Brown, and I can't forget
Mhm.
the other gentleman the FBI actually paid a black pastor. At the time, this black pastor, he basically invented televangelism, right? So he would go on the radio at the time. He had one of the biggest shows, in the country, church shows, and he would go on and preach. FBI paid this man, and he would talk mad cash about the civil rights movement, people in the civil
Mhm.
rights movement, and Martin Luther King, and he would just go in and go on. And there are black people who oppose. I mean, like they had platforms,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We don't
Yeah.
talk about these folks. So then when we talk about a Tim Scott or we talk about modern day black conservatism, people act like it's something new. And it's like, no, it's not new. It's not new. This is cyclical. This is drapetomania. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And things of that nature. But yeah, man. Yeah.
No. Yeah,
But
man.
mhm,
Again, man. Getting back to a lot of stuff that's starting to tie into the wedge issue, and the history um, of conservatives, and understanding that they been could have took care of the immigration bill back under Bush and Obama,
mhm,
which Obama probably did the best with immigration out of
mhm.
modern presidents, because he deported more people than
Yeah,
anybody. In the Spanish countries, they call him the porter in chief.
the order in
Look,
chief.
and again, they still consider him weak on the border. Right
Because
now, Joe
facts
Biden
don't matter.
is literally crashing the drug market in Mexico and South America. He's literally crashing the drug market to now they are smuggling drugs from South America to Europe.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Because people forget, again, facts don't matter, but Joe Biden got Mexico to spend money on the border.
Yeah, yeah,
He got Mexico to spend money on the border, something that Trump couldn't do,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And like again, man, people have to get out of their bubbles, man, and just
Mhm.
realize, man, this is information that's just out there.
It's also their policy. This is on whitehouse.gov. You can go to whitehouse.gov.
Yeah,
Matter of fact, let me go to whitehouse.gov. Let me see. Let me go to whitehouse.gov. Let's do that. Let's go to whitehouse.gov. Let me look up the Biden Harris new action cut vehicles costs. You know what I'm saying? This is what a lot of people don't do. They
mhm,
will make
mhm.
comments and they do not go to any .gov website, and it's right there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's right there, man.
Pe People don't know that a lot of bills that go into the House, you can literally find websites, that's connected to the government resources, that's connected to the senators, that
Mhm,
you can give your opinion on the bill.
mm,
You can literally give your opinion on the bill before it
yeah,
even hits the floor. But again, to tie into what we always express, with 56% of Black Americans living in the South, who do not participate in the election
Yes.
at a high enough rate that, again, these become the problems in America.
Right.
Because if you have the South only voting less than 30% of the population,
Mhm.
the you always gonna have electoral problems.
Yeah, that
You know what I'm
is.
saying? It's clear on what's happening, what Biden pulled off in New Hampshire, right? That
Mhm.
he got 60 something percent of the vote. So the whole narrative that, oh, people ain't gonna vote for Biden, man, these are all just created.
Yeah, yeah, they're created, yeah. The created narratives
Yeah.
that, yeah, that they're doing, about my bad. Yeah, just created narratives about I can't find it. I don't know where it is on here, but it's in whitehouse.gov. You can go to whitehouse.gov
Yeah.
and
Fox News is now trying to question polls. Why are the polls so wrong? Why are the polls showing that Republicans are outpacing and so forth, but yet
yeah,
the last 15 years they've been losing? It's because the the donors and the people who own these sites are Republicans,
mhm,
and they are not there to tell the truth.
yeah, not at all, man. No, that's not yeah, that's not their point. Their point is not to give you information so that you can so that you can make a choice, right? You can make a
Yeah.
decision. You can you know what I'm saying? Because again, much like as y'all seen, I just went to Twitter and found it because this is not on the White House's website just yet. But I
Mhm,
imagine it'll probably be on the White House website. But again, the narrative is Joe Biden weak on the border. Well, that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? He's asking Congress to do their job, which is
mhm,
pass a law. If you pass the law, you do not have to worry about it going through the courts. Because if Joe Biden was to do an executive order, well, then what the Republicans would do is then take that executive order or challenge the executive order. So now it's got to go through the Supreme Court and it's got to do this and it's got to do that. You know what I'm saying? So
mhm,
while it's going through the Supreme Court, the whole time it's going through the Supreme Court, they'll say, oh, Joe Biden's doing nothing on the border, doing nothing on the border, doing nothing. It's like the student loan thing, right?
mhm,
The message behind the student loan thing is that the leftists, right? Joe Biden's
mhm,
doing nothing on student loan, doing nothing on student loan. He does something on student loan. Republicans challenge it. It goes through the courts, and then while it's going through the courts, you hear leftists talking about Joe Biden's not doing anything on student loan, not doing anything on student. Instead of saying that Republicans are challenging the student
mhm.
loan process, which
Yes.
again, which is why Joe Biden went another route for student loan forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? So that went away. You know what I mean? But again, you have just people who are not trying to be factual, right? Because we're in the age of the Trump effect, right?
Mhm,
You don't have to be factual. All you got to do is be somebody hyperbolic and be somebody out there, just be sensationalized, right?
mhm.
Sensationalism. You know what I'm
And
saying?
then end it with name calling.
Yeah, name calling. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if Congress has the bill, they have the bill, they have the support. You had Trump who told the Republican Party to not support the bill so that he can go out and campaign and say Biden was weak on the border. Biden is telling you what he wanted. 1,300 additional Border Patrol agents, 375 immigration judges, 1,600 asylum officers, and over
Mhm,
100 cutting edge inspection machines to help detect and stop fentanyl at our southwest border. This is including stuff he already did. If you're serious about the border crisis, pass a bipartisan bill and I will sign it.
mhm,
So now it's up to the people to call in to your representative in the Senate and the House, and you now tell them, pass the bill if you care about immigration. But these folks who say they care about immigration only want to use it as grievance politics
yeah.
because they don't care about the immigration. They don't care about policy. They don't care, man. They don't care. So,
Yeah. Yeah, they just wanna raise money off of it.
oh, that's it. That's all they
Yeah.
want to
Because again, when you talk about the immigration bill, what people don't talk about, and even Fox News had to acknowledge this, right? That the Republicans in the House and the Senate
do.
got everything that they wanted in this bill.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
asked for it, they got it.
They got it. Yep. They got
So this wasn't even a Democrat bill.
it. No, not not at all, man. It's
It
crazy.
just at the end of the day,
Mm,
what people don't understand is this was because most Americans agree about the border, and
mhm,
not in the sense of like targeting immigrants, but we just want a a sensible idea to people just coming into the country.
mhm, mhm,
Uh, I personally don't believe in fictitious lines, like,
mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Like, but at the end of the day, okay, that's how countries are established. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, you do need some sort of immigration, right? Some sort
Yeah,
of control because you really don't wanna be over because at the end of the day, it's about resources. That's really
yeah,
what it is. You
yeah,
gotta make sure you have enough resources. I get it, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, Americans have enough resources.
yeah.
It's just that we just don't smartly use the resources. So, we can't even get regular Americans that's been in this country for over 200 years. We can't even get these folks healthcare, housing, education. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
mhm.
Like as they get older, we can't make sure that they have, they want to push the retirement age to 70 now. You know what I mean? As older people were getting back into work, at the start of the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so, it really isn't about resources. Truly, it is about, um, you know, uh, um, trying to have a class of Americans, that's cheap labor. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
bottleneck economic
And
system.
and go back to Tim Scott
Hmm.
line when they were talking about the auto strike,
Hmm.
where he was saying because people were fighting for a higher wage. Keep in
Yeah.
mind, the board members and the CEOs got a 40% raise, right?
Hmm.
Tim Scott was telling other Americans,
Hmm.
Republican and Democrat people that work at these plants, if you don't show up to work, you should be fired.
Yeah.
So again, this was about having cheap labor
Yes.
for the donor class.
Yes.
And again, Republicans and black conservatives fall for this,
Hmm.
where at the end of the day, you are not a part of this donor class.
Right. Right. That's really what it is, man. Um, we can touch on this Trump line about the economy. Again, this is one of those things where Trump is just trying to repeat something where even Fox News is saying the opposite. You know what I mean? About like they just get surprised about the economy. They're waiting for this recession or something that's not going to happen. Um, you know,
Larry
interest rates.
Kudlow. Larry
Yeah.
Kudlow said, "The Biden boom."
Yeah,
He
man.
said, "We can't deny it anymore. It's the Biden boom."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, man. And it's the legislation, a lot of people were talking about spending the money, the money that we spent during the pandemic. But it's not about the money that we spent, it's where we spent it, where we smartly spent it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like the PPP loans, which isn't here, black folk.
Yeah.
They are they are coming after people, man. They got the
Yeah.
folks they got the folks. I was watching something where somebody was saying the way that they're getting folks is that they had to get the PPP loan through a bank. So
Mm,
the bank has your name. It
Mhm,
has information you put down for employees. It has your business, your EID number, and all that. And then
mhm,
so what the government is doing is subpoenaing the bank.
mm,
Whew,
mm,
bro,
mm,
it comes.
mm.
But anyway, we spent money smartly. You know what I'm saying? In the with the inflation with the with the Inflation Reduction Act. You know,
Yeah,
and the infrastructure investments. Um, and so people got hired, um, which allowed other businesses to stay open. You know what I'm saying? Now, we can have a conversation about, people being outside and where you spending your money, but buying stuff. But, it's about where the money was being smartly spent.
and
You know what I'm saying?
and honestly, you can point out the 2 differences, right? The 2 differences was the PPP actually started under Trump, right? The
Right.
whole process, right?
Hmm.
And this is how the LA Lakers, was able to get the PPP loan, even though they had record profits that year,
Hmm.
right? But when Trump left office, Biden cleaned all of that up because people don't understand. Trump fired the liaisons
Right. Right.
to watch over the money.
Right. Yep.
And these are just the clear differences with an economy. You have to spend the money properly. That
Right.
which means you have to invest into people.
Right.
You cannot invest into rich people or corporations and then thinking that you are going to get that money back into the economy.
Right. Tom Brady or,
Tom
churches or you know what I mean?
Brett Favre.
Yeah, Brett Favre. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like you're saying, that PPP loan should have been like, this is for small business owners. This is where we're targeting to allow these individuals to stay open. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
If you
yes.
make over a certain amount, then you're not. Yeah. It's about
Yeah,
where yeah. Any
yeah.
country that has the bring in the amount of tax dollars, the trillions of tax dollars federally that we bring in, what I mean? You just have to spend your money smartly. I mean,
Yeah.
which is why it is important. Also, what people aren't understanding is that, again, when you forgive people's student loans, well, guess what? They have more money to do.
Mhm,
They got more money to save. They got more money to buy. You know what I'm saying? And things of
mhm.
that. So, it is about smartly spending tax dollars. You know what I mean? Which is that, those of us on the left, that's what we're asking.
Yeah, yeah.
Smartly invest in the people, and that's what you're voting for in 2024. You're voting for the progress to smartly invest in people. And like Joe Biden is saying, and he's rightfully saying, at least on the federal level, if you give Joe Biden a second term and you give Joe Biden a bigger numbers in the Senate and bigger numbers in the House, you can do even more. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Because
Um,
here's the fun fact that that, um, that isn't stated, in that statement is the Democrats don't have the numbers in the House, but they pass more bills than the Republicans who
yeah,
have the power.
I
The
heard kind of
Senate,
right,
the Democrats have small margin in the Senate, but again, pass more bills than the Republicans have basically, you know what I'm saying? Like
no,
this is
yeah,
this is what people have to understand because when you have a party that is all their their whole premise is literally to not pass bills
right,
that will benefit people.
right. That's yeah, it's to make government inefficient.
Yeah,
That's to make government it's they're kind of trying to continue the Ronald Reagan revolution when Ronald Reagan um cut funding for the government. So
yeah. The do
uh
nothing party.
yeah, and but it affected, we were talking about black people. It affected black people, right? So
Mhm,
in states like up north where we live, you
mhm,
had summer programs where kids would go to a park or something and they can get summer lunches. It's like what
mhm.
Biden is doing again.
Yep.
We had those programs back in the day. You know what I'm saying? And so, you get the summer, you get the sandwich, that bologna sandwich is bussin', and the chicken.
Yeah, 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 man.
Yeah, with the grape juice, man. That joint was good, man. That joint was
Ooh,
I didn't care too much for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
yeah.
but but you go to the park and you would get your lunch and things of that nature, or you would hang out at the lunch, you know what I mean? And somebody from the community, or it was a way for teenagers to have like a summer program and take care of the
Mhm,
community, and things of that nature. States and cities were able to create what was called teenage jobs. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
Because of the funding that was coming in. We grew up playing in a Storm and Norman League. Storm and Norman League was huge,
mhm,
but Norman he had the money because that money was coming from the federal government to the state and things of that nature. Boys and girls clubs were open, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. Well, once Ronald Reagan defunds government by cutting taxes, on the wealthy, well, something got to go, and he was cutting, these programs, the
mhm,
money that was supporting a lot of these programs and things
mhm.
of that nature. And so something had to go.
So again, you're going back to, Project 2025, which
Yeah.
is in Project 2025, they wanna cut, more social, programs.
Yep.
Like, regular people, man, who do you think that's going to hurt?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter on this is not Republican, Democrat. This is a people issue. This is
Right.
a class issue. This is all the things wrapped up in one. And if you keep trying to fight the fact that someone's talking about either gender,
Mhm.
either race,
Right.
or class, if you
Right.
keep trying to fight this fight, you're going to end up losing with them, with the
Yeah.
people that are fighting as well.
Yeah.
This is how we get to a place where now the average American can't retire.
Yeah. And it's going to affect your kids, man. We're already in a generation that can't own anything. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? They're seeing having less kids. There's one group of people who are having less kids, but overall, it's going to affect black children. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not going to be able to afford anything. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so, yeah, man, and it's all in the name of what, man? So you can say your team won. You know what I mean? Yeah, my team won.
Yeah,
Like that's not what it's about. It is about policies, man. What policies? What are you leaving behind?
yeah,
What are you leaving behind? You know what I mean? 'Cause I say it all the time. I'm tired of living in the 40th year of Ronald Reagan, man. This
yeah.
is yeah, I'm tired of it, man. It's you know what I mean?
It's
Um,
draining.
it is draining. It's draining, man.
You feel like you're constantly working, like,
Yeah.
literally. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
man.
saying? Me and the missus, like, we sat back and laughed. I'm like, "Man, we got a 9 to 5, a business. She has a business. Now I'm going to also create another business,
Mm,
all to be able to sit back and get to a place where I can even have the possibility of retiring.
or retiring. Look, I
I'm
gotta
gonna
tell
work myself to death." And again, this ties into Nikki Haley, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm gonna work myself to death, and I'll if I work that hard, man, 70 I may not even see it
Yeah,
because Imma work myself to death,
yeah,
and it benefits her and her policy because guess what? They ain't gotta pay out.
yeah, and her children and her grandchildren,
Mm,
you know what I'm saying? And I tell folks in the military all the time, man, they're like, "Yo, like, yeah, you're gonna be young when you retire, but you're gonna have to go get a job.
yeah,
That retirement that you get ain't gonna be enough. You're gonna have to get a
mhm,
job, man, because it is, but this is the future that the Republicans want. You know what I mean? They want people to work to death. And I
yeah,
can't understand anybody who is sitting here and they don't see that and they don't you're listening to the entertainment part of it, and you need to
mhm,
get past the entertainment part and start listening to policies and start looking around at your own community and your own family and things of that nature,
mhm,
like, dang, what am I going to leave behind, man? How my children going to survive, man?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In this economy or this American future that the Republicans want, to where it truly will be a dog eat dog. They already don't. You already, especially if you're in a right to work state. If you're in a
Mhm.
right to work states are right to be poor states. That's what they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right to work states mean people can fire you for any reason.
Mhm.
They don't need to, you know what I'm saying? You can't barely take grievances again. You don't barely have a union and all these other things, you know what I mean? They're fighting against unions, they're fighting against healthcare, they're fighting against raising the minimum wage, they're fighting against education. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Fighting against housing, they're fighting against the environment, they're fighting against everything that betters your quality of life. And they're giving you nothing. But
Yeah.
guess what they've given the wealthy in this country? Money. They've given them money and they've given them capital. And with that capital, they have bought homes and land and they're raising rent and doing all this other stuff, man. It is uh, um, uh, yeah, but it's individualistic, right? I don't have to work really, yeah. But what about your children? Will your children have to work? Is your children gonna get that retirement? Is your children getting the retirement? Is your children getting disability? Is your children, you know what I'm saying? Like what about everybody else? If you can look
Mhm.
beyond yourself, you know what I'm saying? And things of that nature, you know what I'm saying? Got a question. What is black exceptionalism? Um, you know, Man, I don't even know how you can define black exceptionalism. I don't think that and make sure we capitalize that B when you mention when you
Yeah.
mention yeah, capitalize that B. But uh black black exceptionalism is whatever you make it, I would say. I don't I don't know how how to define that term uh because generally when we're talking about exceptionalism, um we are only pointing out the folks who have had success, right? We're pointing out Michael Jordan, Oprah. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We're looking at the black neighborhoods and things, um, and things of that nature. But you know, yeah, I don't know if there's a definition of uh, of black exceptionalism, man. I
I think you described it. Um,
oh yeah,
b because it really to me, it really is, when it comes to society as a whole,
mm,
you break down that group, and you get to a point where when you when you when you look at Black people or Spanish people or so forth, you you only go to the the ones that are the millionaires or
hmm,
the ones who have achieved something, more than the actual group,
right,
and they become the actual example to where then people like a Tim Scott will then say, like, "Well, they made it. Why can't you?"
exactly. Why can't
And
you? Yeah,
that is Black exceptionalism. That right
yeah.
there, where, okay, the average person or white person in South Carolina, even if they're in poverty,
Right.
they have more wealth than than the average Black person.
Mhm.
But keep in mind, we don't look at him as being exceptional, even though he owns land, even though it's a raggedy trailer on
Mm.
it, and he can sell that land for 30, 40,000. But the Black person, they can't even, because 46% of us make less than $50,000 a year.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And don't own property. So we have no actual wealth. So, like, that right there where you believe that that white person that pulled up in a $70,000 check truck and live in a trailer is the average person, but yet the black person who makes the same amount of money but don't own the property had to do way more to to kind of be, um, viewed in in a certain light.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, man, and I think that's my critique of black exception is my same critique of black excellence, man. It leaves out this group of people as we're looking at this thing where it says the median income for black US households is 50,000. Well, why is the median income 50,000 when we know that the white median income is double that?
Mhm,
So when you're talking about exceptionalism and you're talking about black excellence, you have to add context to that. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
It's not that black people can't achieve. And I had a conversation with somebody about this at work. You know what I'm saying? Because we was talking about black conservative and
mhm,
white conservatives favorite caricature, favorite person, Thomas Sowell. And I
mm,
was telling them that it's not that black people didn't achieve anything, or it's not that people are talking about black people can't achieve. It's talking about the interruptions that black people had to building wealth. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking about Chicago, Chicago had black people who actually bought homes. But while they were buying homes, you had white individuals that were signing them up for. I think it was called a contract. It was like contract something. I can't remember what it was, but basically, it was a contract where black people signed with this individual saying that, oh, you'll own the home in X amount of years, and and then when it came time for black people to basically pay off this home, the white person generally would be like, "Oh, well, I can't give you the home now." You know what I'm saying? Or I can't, or we got to extend the contract for some reason.
mhm,
Actually, this was the reason for Chicago to pay reparations for those individuals who experienced that housing, crisis. It's like a whole thing. It's like a whole thing. It was bad. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't because black people could not achieve or could not build wealth. It was the systems that there were white people who were taking advantage of black people. There were white people who were taking advantage of black people for life insurance. There were white people who took advantage of black people for banking. There were white people who took advantage of black people for healthcare, a myriad of other reasons and interruptions in black people being able to pass on wealth to their children. You can't ignore that and talk about black exceptionalism because you are not exceptional. You just so happen to have the freedoms today that your parents and your grandparents did not have. So therefore, you are able to achieve more. You know what I'm saying? I do not look at myself as exceptional because I needed the protection of the government of the United States military in order to have a home, in order to have my kids have health care, in order for me to pass on education for my children, for me to get a free college, and in order for me to get health care myself. And in that, the government protect me because in the military, they said, hey, there we have a zero racism policy, we have a zero sexualism policy, or we have these zero tolerance policies in place. They're not perfect, you know what I'm saying?
mhm,
But these things protect you. You are you know what I'm saying? There are no exceptions. You know what I'm saying? You are not and you're not the rule either. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. I had that backwards. You're not the rule. You are the exception. I'm sorry. I mixed it up. I
mhm,
just
mhm,
realized and explained all that. So this is when this question gets asked, is the rule versus the exception. You are not the rule because you make X amount of dollars and you have a nice house today. You are the exception. I was the exception because I had protections and I have freedom.
mhm,
Okay. And I have freedom that my parents did not have and my grandparents did not have. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
We were the exception because we were the exception and not the rule because how we grew up, we should not have made it. but
Yeah.
it's because of decisions that we made along the way that got us to where we are today. You know what I mean? That does not
Despite
ex
fighting through racism,
through racism, right?
yeah,
Yeah, just like you
police,
right,
abuse, like,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, just like you told me the story about you being on a job and a white man slapped you and you could not
mhm,
respond to that. That is
mhm,
not that is not a rule. That
yeah,
is not a rule. You had to make a choice at that moment to, "Hey, man, this white man just slapped me. I cannot respond to this because I need to feed my family."
mhm,
That is that is exceptional. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? No, it's not decisions, brother. It's not decisions. That that is somebody surviving. That is
yeah,
somebody surviving, man, and Black people have had to survive, and if you grew up in a household or you grew up in an area where you do not understand the difference between surviving and decision making, if
mhm,
you if you had the freedoms to make decisions and not survive, you know what I'm saying? You just had the freedoms for that, man.
yeah, yeah, but you were pointing out, man, and this is a story of many people, right?
Mhm,
Even poor whites, right?
mhm,
Um, the abuses that they face in their states, West Virginia and so forth, not having water and so forth. But the problem is, um, it is the fact that they believe that they are so exceptional,
mhm,
even though that they're poor, that they fight with the people that are oppressing other people,
mhm,
and they end up with the same scenario.
mhm,
When the actual group is they should have joined with the group. You know what I'm saying? That just like the guy that decided to smack me in the shipyard, right? We're
mhm,
both working here. You've been working in, he been working in the shipyard for 20 something years, right?
mhm,
But yet we're in the same place. We have the same job.
mhm.
And yet you didn't go smack the CEO who stole millions of dollars and then cry when you couldn't get a raise.
That's what I'm saying, man. The these folks are who believe in this, that certain Black folk are the rule, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah, I mean, every person makes a decision. I mean, you can't go through life without making a decision, but I think you're being, very, ignorant and conflating, decision making and survival. You know what I'm saying? I think that God gave us that's what God gave us. When He cast it out. Adam and Eve from the garden. If you believe in the Bible and you read the Bible, you know what I'm saying. That they had choices and decisions. I mean, but they had to survive. They had to
Mhm,
survive. So within even growing up, I mean, even growing up, you know what I'm saying? Um, uh, uh, Surviving is fight or flight. You know what I mean?
mhm,
You can call it decision all you want. But through that, I look at the world different. You know what I'm saying? You can call it decisions, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I don't know. I just determined that my environment or the environments that I was placed in made me make a determination on what I needed to do. You know what I
mhm,
mean? In order to make it, in order to survive. You know what I'm saying? When I was about to be kicked out of the military, simply, because I was a Black kid, you know what I mean? And I didn't like my supervisor calling me boy. I had to sit back and think like, oh man, I got nowhere. I don't have anything to go back to. You know
mhm.
what I'm saying? So yeah, I had to make a decision, but I had to shrink myself
To
when like
survive.
to survive. I had to shrink myself. I had to
Mhm.
become less of myself, you know what I'm saying, in order so I can make it out of that environment. You know what I'm
Because you're pointing to something, but I think you can sum it up this way, right? Um, Decision making is the first priority of human nature, which comes to self preservation.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like it's really that simple. So when you're saying it's a decision, Yes, but that decision is based off of self-preservation, and
Right,
self-preservation is simply about survival.
right. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's how Black people have lived our lives. Um, uh, I I think that Black people have a unique experience in America, and if you deny that, again, you're just being very ignorant of it. Like Black people have a very unique experience in America that we pass down to our children. You know what I'm saying? The whole point. You know what I mean? This is how. Right. So when Emmett Till goes from Chicago to Mississippi, Alabama, when he
Mhm,
goes to the South, when he goes to one of them states, right? His parents passed along survival tips to him. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? That you whether he had adhered to it or not, it didn't matter to the society that he was in because he was Black. That's all it
mhm,
mattered. So it didn't matter if he stepped off the sidewalk wrong or if he looked at a white woman wrong, that he would have had the same result.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So yes, Black people have a unique experience here in America when you look at the fact of especially the economic exploitation. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And this is my problem with Black History Month, right? Again, my problem with Black History Month is that we always talk about the first, and we always talk about this person that invented this and this person that created that. We do not add context to how the greater of us, those folks in the middle, those folks that we are missing, how they grew up, the exploitation, you know what I'm saying? Anecdotally, down to our family. You know what I'm saying? When you back to our family, when you have a grandmother that could barely read, a grandfather that could
mhm,
barely read, those children aren't supposed to survive. That's
mhm,
just what it is. You move them up north. You know what I mean? You don't have any money, or you move up north, have children. You yourself don't have money, even though your father owns land. You do not have money from that land. So you put your children in a house, you paying the house off, but your children have no college. They have no way to pay for college other than going in debt. They have no way of having health care other than being provided by the job. You know what I'm saying? Uh, uh, and so that creates another struggle. So when you have, five kids, in our family, you had a father at the time who was an alcoholic and he had his own issues and things of that nature. So he couldn't properly provide for a family. And if he couldn't properly provide for a family, you have your family living in a shack with no running water.
mhm.
There was no running water. There was sharing beds. We couldn't even we had to poop and pee in a bucket. And then my dad would take the bucket and dump it outside in the outhouse. You know what I mean? That's where we came from. And so
'Cause
you
they didn't
we
want us to go to the outhouse because it was snakes out.
Yeah, because it was snakes, but more importantly, we didn't have running water in the house. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we moved from poverty to being poor, which means
Mhm,
we had limited resources. So those limited resources meant that we had to share. We had to share clothes. We had to share shoes. We had to you know what I mean? We can only have the heat on at certain times. We had to boil water in order to have hot water. We had to depend on food kitchens and things of
First
that
time we had a wash machine, we were teenagers.
we were teenagers by the time we were washboarding our clothes. You know what I'm saying? That's anecdotal, but again, it doesn't, Black History Month does not give a proper context of American peoples and things of that nature. And that's why I was sharing that Black American research by the Pew Research. And you can also go to blackdemographics.com. So when people are talking about Black people, don't individualize it to a Michael Jordan or LeBron or an Oprah. Look at the data. So, the things that we talk about, what I mean, if there are, 56% of the people, Black people live in the South, well, then your politics need to be about those 56% of the people and where they grew up or how they are living life, how they are experiencing life. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Yeah,
Because if their life, um, you know, I if their if the resources for that Black group in the South expands or get better, it only gets better in the North.
for everybody.
It only gets better in the West.
for everybody.
But
Yep.
but the problem is when you start looking at things in a localized lens, and you only can see what's around you,
Mhm,
you miss how, we talked about this the last week again, right? Where
mhm.
how local politics affects you, then state politics affects you, and then federal is the last to affect you.
That's the last to affect you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. So crying about a Joe Biden or a Trump, it does nothing when you don't force one, your city council, your mayor, your governor to do what they're supposed to do because you decided to vote in a conservative who didn't pass any legislation to even fix the roads or give, you know, childcare services to mothers and so forth because he's trying to cut the budget, but then give the money to a job that that wants to buy land in the city but don't pay any taxes.
Mhm.
This becomes the real problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just had a question, do you believe you grew up that way because you were black? Yes. I mean, like, again, if you're not aware of how black people grew up in the South, again, segregation did not end in the South in 1965. It did not end.
Yep. Mhm.
The roads and highways, again, I try to tell people this all the time, highways are racist. There's a great, book called Segregation by Design. You know what I'm saying? Where roads, even even where we grew up in Delaware, 4th Street separated black people
Mhm.
from the Italians that lived on the
Mhm.
other side of it. So they did the same thing with highways. So what they would do to black people in the South, they would make sure that black people who were sharecroppers worked on plantations or were sharecropping. They made sure that they didn't have access to highways. You know what I'm saying? Right here where I live in Sumter, that's the case. That's why you look at Sumter and you're like, this is so dumb. Why
Mhm.
don't we have access to 95 or something like that? Quick access. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so, when we grew up at the time, you know, mom was working in a factory making $2 an hour. I remember mom working in that factory. She was making $2 an hour. And I think dad was working at Fort Jackson. Yeah, I think he was making like the same. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Same amount. Um, you know, I remember mom telling us a story and dad too that they went to go look for a house and they wanted to get a 3-bedroom house, but they
Mhm.
used to grow your hair out and they thought that you was a girl, and so that was the only reason that the white man rented the house out to us because they
'Cause I
thought you
had
was
long, luscious hair.
right, you had long hair, and he felt like, "Oh, man, that oldest boy can't be staying in the same room with the girl." You know what I'm saying? I think mom was pregnant with our sister at the time.
There's a picture, of Monique, um, you know,
Mhm,
in in, um, in the stroller, right?
yeah. Mhm.
And, like, we're standing next to her, and I got the long hair out,
Yeah, yeah.
and then, like, you had yours braided.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Mhm.
like, it man, it was so funny seeing that. But
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but our experience was because we were black. We were black growing up in the South. We grew up in a poor area. We grew up in it's still poor.
yeah,
North
yeah.
South Carolina. You can go look at it. Go look at the economics of that area, man. Go look at it. You can go look at the economics of your area. In South Carolina, rural towns are dying. People are
Yeah.
moving out of the rural towns and they're moving to the bigger cities because because there's no economics. So again, we grew up in a segregated South. We were segregated. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there were poor white people that was around us.
Mhm.
That's how it is in the South. There were poor white families in the and in the South. So So yes, our experience was because we were black, because our parents were affected by it because they were black, and look, we have to remember both of our parents were born in 52 and 57. So they were not free for 11, 12 years of their life, you know what I mean, until 1965 or 68, really. 1968. I'm born 10 years later. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? And I'm born in the South where kids were still going to schools that weren't funded. Black kids were going to school that were not funded. They were still reading old books. I remember going up north when we moved to Delaware. I was reading from old books from like the 1970s. And we were
mm,
going to school we were going to school with middle class, poor white kids at the time. Well, you know what I'm saying? But our experience is because we were black. That's
yeah.
what it is. The James Baldwin said this, and I'll leave this here. James Baldwin said, "I do not know if America is racist. I do not know if the individual is racist. Right? I just know that America has laws, both legislative and social, and I know that there are outcomes to those laws, and
Mhm,
those laws, and I can see it and I can see it.
mhm,
I can see it, and there's data and there's information that's tied that tells you that have a racial outcome that is positive or negative, right,
mhm,
towards a group. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And if those laws or those social laws have a negative outcome towards Black people, the only conclusion you can come to is that America's racist.
mhm,
That's the only conclusion. So when
yeah.
you pass anti-CRT legislation, or you do what's happening in Tennessee, where Tennessee just kicked 500,000 people off the voter rolls, how do
Mhm,
you not look at that and see that the proportion of people are black, the majority of people are black? How do you not look at that and you don't be like, dang, that's a racist policy?
yeah.
How do you look at that and be like, oh, you know what it is, man? Is I mean, they're just passing legislation. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
no, you can't do that, so
Yeah. Florida citizens voting, to restore, felons' rights to vote, and then Ron DeSantis go lock up only black people and then
yeah,
parade them on the news.
yeah, man,
Like, I don't know how people don't say, like, "Man, that is really racist."
that's racist, man. Yeah,
And, like, again, like, sitting here saying, like, racism don't exist, it's not stopping nobody. I'm like, "Man, look, it's not stopping everybody."
mhm,
That is 2 different statements. When you're sitting here, somebody is being affected by it. But the
yeah,
problem is, it's people that's fighting to eradicate it.
mhm, right,
And that's the difference is people don't want to really eradicate it. And I talked to the missus and I'm like, I said, man, and I said this before on our podcast, man, and I'll stick to it and it keeps showing up to be true. The problem is black people, some black people need racism too.
man. Come on, man. That is a fact.
They
That
need it
that is a fact, man.
because it makes them feel somewhat exceptional.
Yeah, man. This is the Tim Scotts. These are the black conservatives. They need that racism, man, to be
You the
impacted.
good nigga. You know what I'm saying?
Good
Like,
Negro. No, that's for real. This goes back to like Booker T. Washington, right? Booker T. Washington telling
yeah,
black people stop fighting for civil rights. Stop fighting for civil rights. Hey, what we need to do is build businesses. Well, everybody can't build a business.
yeah,
So what happens to everybody else when you can't build a business? You're
yeah.
only protecting the black elite. You're only protecting these groups. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? WDB Du Bois and Ida B. Wells challenges him on that, on that statement. You know what I'm saying? And this is how Nixon is able to exploit black people in the 1970s, talking about black business this, business that, and business, and then of course you need your black business, right? But do
mhm,
not be fooled and think that you could just black business your way out, or black people can
mm,
black business your way out, our way out of into some sort of economic prosperity. If that was the case, it would have happened already because we right now under the Biden administration, you had the most black businesses ever,
mhm.
but you ain't seeing the numbers and the data that says that it's going to lead to some economic you know, prosperity issue, and it's mainly because I believe what Dr. Claude Anderson said. We don't live in black communities anymore. We live close to each other. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? I think that's part of it. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, because
yeah.
we don't also practice, economic empowerment, right? You know what I'm
Mm-mm,
saying? So regardless of, like, if you are a black liberal, black leftist, black
mhm,
conservative, the problem is everybody sit back and say that they are supportive of black people in a way, right? But
mhm.
yet, ask them how many times that you have bought something from a black person that created a business. Ask them if you're making that a practice in your life.
Man,
Most of the cases, no, they're not.
listen, Martin Luther King he goes to Chicago right before he's murdered. Like a year later, he's murdered. He goes to Chicago and he's like begging all these black people to buy from black people. He's like, "Hey, I need y'all to stop buying Tide and buy this black detergent over here. If you buy that black detergent, this black person is able to make it better over time. Sure, it's not as good as Tide right now, but
Mhm,
it'll be better if you buy from this black person because this black person is going to hire more black people than the Tide factory." You know what I mean? Black people like, man, get up out of here. I don't. And what happened? They like, hey, I don't want to seem like I'm poor. So
mhm,
so today we have the same issue, right? Black people buy
mhm.
brands,
Yeah.
and so because we don't want to seem like we're poor, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
This is how, but who's that dude? The founder of BET. He creates a video in like the 1960s where like how to market to the Negro. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? And he's showing that he says it in there. Black people will buy brands. So if you have
mhm.
a brand, black people buy it. Well, what do black people do today?
Yeah.
They buy branded. We buy Gucci and Louis and Jordan. Hey, I
Well
like me
well,
pair of
he
Jordan.
talked about, the denial of purchasing power that,
Mhm,
black people had originally in that
mhm,
video. And again, like, this is where it comes from. It's just like we didn't have stuff for so long, or we watched our grandparents not have nothing for so long, our
mhm,
parents for not have nothing so long. And then the moment that we were able to do something,
mhm.
we flocked to the brand because the
Yeah,
Mercedes Benz made us feel.
right. Once the middle class expands in the 1940s,
Mhm.
black middle class, 1940s, 1950s, hey, this is
You
why
getting
everybody
that
black
Cadillac.
buying that Cadillac. This is why
Yeah,
black people were buying Cadillac. Cadillac was supporting black people, but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of it. But it's you know we and that black people supporting black business, what that look like. You know what I'm saying? It is like you are supporting a black business, but again, what is that black business then turning around and doing for the community? Because if you are not man, I'm reading this book right now called The Myth of Black Capitalism, and basically it's saying that black capitalism is different than American capitalism, or it has to be different.
Mhm,
You know what I'm saying? So if I
mhm,
create a black business and I hire employees, I have to make sure those employees have a livable wage. I have to make sure they have a 401k. They can send their kids to school. They can pay for a mortgage. They can do all of these things. If you are a business person and you hire employee, you like, I'm paying you $7 an hour because that's what the federal minimum wage is.
mhm.
Well, then how can you call yourself a black business?
Yeah.
Because you hire black people. How can you call yourself a, a black business
Mhm,
if you're not ethically, supporting black people? You know what I'm saying? So
mhm,
it's a pretty interesting book. But in there, it talks about the Negro Business League, how they were mainly trying to mimic you know
mhm.
American capitalism,
Yeah.
rather than establishing their own capitalism. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? That primarily supported black people, which then would have changed people's mindsets into, hey,
mhm.
I need to buy and support black because it'll build. But
Yeah, yeah.
buy
Because
black
we look.
is not a new campaign either. I didn't know that. This was something that was done back
Mhm.
in like the early 1900s. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, it just it's a lot of things that we really have to like reimagine, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that we have to recreate, but we just
Right,
have to reimagine.
right.
Um, and these questions came before us
Mhm.
many times over,
Yeah.
and we have the stones or the cornerstones to have the discussion.
Mhm.
And I think s- some black people are having a hard time evolving
Mhm, mhm,
um, because it's literally the cornerstone of what conservative is.
mhm,
Like you don't evolve.
mhm. That's
You
it's
don't
too conservative.
evolve. Yeah, it's too conserved. So you don't evolve with society. You don't evolve into new ideas. You don't involve like to change. And some people are flustered by it. And that's where you see them lash out. That's where you see them other people. That's where you see them, oh, but the LGBTQ and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but they're not bothering you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you pointing out that they are LGBT, like they're not bothering you.
Yeah, yeah. What's the point?
They're
What
not the one who's stopping you from retiring. They're not the one who's taking your pension. They're not the one who's stopping you from getting Medicaid for all. They're not the one. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
they're not stopping none of this.
They're not stopping your children from having a
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
Not
From getting your college paid. Like they're not stopping that.
stop that, man. Yeah.
And
Did you
and
just
and it's one of the things that people really got to check, man. You got to
mm,
check yourself
mm,
because we'll never have nothing in this country, in the richest country that has ever been created, while we can sit back and complain about sending money to Israel, Ukraine, and all these other places that got college paid for and healthcare, so forth, but we'll never have it here because we're constantly sitting here trying to blame everything on the immigrants. We're
and then
constantly in
mm,
the LGBTQ.
right.
As Charlie Kirk said, black people are the reason why the Boeing plane is a failure. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? Like these are the reason why we can't have anything
mhm, mm, yeah.
because we're looking at the wrong problems. Because
Oh,
it's Charlie Kirk that's the problem.
yeah, yeah. It was like the
It
black elites, like
yeah,
they were doing to poor black people, as poor black people migrating up to the west and up north. You know what I mean? These black middle class folks. You know what I mean? Were pointing at the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? Oh no, no, it's them. It's the way they talk. It's the way they act. Like these are your family members. It's
yeah,
not. They're not. They got forced into ghettos. They got
yeah.
forced into terrible housing situation. It wasn't
Mhm.
because they were. It wasn't because the way they were talking. It wasn't because them being black. It's because of the system. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And like you're saying, if you're sitting here focusing on the LGBTQ because of something, I don't know, and Nikki Haley's talking about making you work till you're 70. What what are you talking about?
Mhm.
Trump Trump wants to cut taxes again and
Mhm.
then make it permanent. Well, you think the federal government gonna stop collecting taxes? They're gonna they're gonna go after you for more taxes, which people are seeing right now, and people saw last year because people after the Trump tax cuts, you know what I mean? They were like, "Oh man, my tax return kind of light." Yeah, it's light because of Trump tax cuts. The wealthy
Yeah.
in this country is not paying as much as taxes, and so your state comes after you because the federal government cannot subsidize the states,
Mhm.
especially if you live in the South. You get
Mhm.
subsidized more by the federal government because these Republican states are again right to work states. They're right to be
Mhm.
poor states. They have the majority of poor people, or people who fit under the poverty line so they don't collect as much state taxes, you know what I mean? And they also give tax breaks to corporations because those corporations pass the tax burden onto their employees. So they're not collecting as much taxes. So that means for you, you're paying more in property taxes. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You're paying more in sales tax. Look at what's happening in Florida. Look at what's happening in Florida. Them fools down there are paying way more in property taxes because their governor is dumb. Their governor is dumb. You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
North Carolina is going through the same thing now
Because their
since they
governor.
since they went red.
Oh yeah. Look, man.
Yeah,
And then people want to blame the federal government. Federal government this. No, that's your state. That is
yeah.
your state being dumb. And that is you being dumb too, because you're worried about the LGBTQ and
Mhm,
and you have a whole Republican Party that is dipping into your back pockets while you're yelling at this person that has nothing to do
mhm,
with the
mhm,
economics in your life or your children's life.
mhm,
What are we doing? What are we
mhm.
doing, man? What are we
Because
doing?
you don't because they don't understand that the Republican Party is trying to privatize everything.
Yes, create a
Mhm,
dog eat dog, or
mhm,
really create neo serfdom, which
mhm,
means that your children will not be owners of anything. They will work, they will rent, they will not own anything. And
mhm.
you know what I mean? And if they do happen to own something, they will be the ones paying the majority of the taxes on them
Yep,
because they're going to bottleneck who can become millionaires. That is what's in Project 25 is 2025 is right there. They
yeah,
d man, I'll tell you, man, the Republicans, man, they know, I give them credit for one thing. They will tell the other team to play, and they don't care,
yeah,
right? They're like the football team. They will tell you to play, and they don't care because,
yeah.
again, it's not about the play, it's about the distraction. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah, we're gonna run it to the right. We're gonna run power left to the right. We don't care. They're screaming it to the other team. Oh, look over there. Oh, hey, referee, LGBTQ. Look at them immigrants. Look at them
Yeah.
immigrants. CRT. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
I know you're hurt,
Yeah, teacher,
but
teacher,
look, that
teacher,
other side, they
over
are
there.
fighting. Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
there's people, and then the crowd is looking like, oh man, look at that. And then here go the Republicans running the ball up for a touchdown
yep.
because you
Great
dummy.
greatest trick, man.
Yeah, it's the man. It
The
is
trick
it is
of the
man
eyes, ears, like,
of the
it yeah.
it's they hope, they and this is why what also Republicans doing on the state level, they're defunding education. They're
Yes.
defunding education so that your children will not know how to protest the government or
Bro,
how to
I w
fight
man,
against the government.
I was shocked that my daughter only had just a quarter of
Mm,
civics.
yeah,
I said, "How the
Ronald,
civics is like the biggest thing that you do in life."
civics is the biggest thing we did. Ronald Reagan, because of Ronald Reagan. They took out civics in class. They took out home ec because Ronald Reagan defunded the public schools on the federal level. And then George Bush, with No
Mm,
Child Left Behind, what George Bush did with No Child Left Behind, again, so schools had to meet standardized testing. If they did
mhm,
not meet standardized testing, they did not get funding from the federal government or for the states. So
mhm,
they got defunded. So this is how during the 2000s, when we become parents, this is how classroom sizes go from 10 children to 20 children because the schools around that got closed. And this is where you had places like Louisiana going through an issue right now with charter schools because they
mm,
were like, oh man, charter schools is the answer. And they're finding out charter schools are not the answer. You
mhm.
know what I'm saying? But the Republicans again, Project 2025, they tell you right in there is to transform public education. Basically means
Yep,
defunding it. It
yeah,
basically means defunding it. They defund public education, and at the same time, they lower or create or say that 14 and 15-year-olds can now work 8-10 hours a week or something
mhm,
like that. They
mhm.
don't expect a lot of these kids to graduate.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Once they defund the public schools. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's the trick. It's the ploy. Again, again, you don't know none of this because you're paying attention to, you know what I mean, some bull crap about, I don't know, LGBTQ kids and immigrants and something
Nah,
something
Sleepy Joe.
sleepy. Let's go, Brent. Yeah,
I wa
yeah,
I was just man, the guy at my job, he was sitting here talking about, he was like, "Man, Joe Biden fell to sleep in his, speech, it was the other night." And I watched it, right?
yeah,
And I said, "He didn't fall to sleep."
right,
I said, "I don't know what video you've seen, but he didn't fall to sleep." I said, "That speech was actually pretty darn good, man."
yeah,
I said, I'm not really a Joe Biden fan, but I can say when I hear a message and I see what is being done, I can sit back and like, okay, yeah, he's on the right path, right? And I
hmm
was like, yeah, you could be getting hit with you know, um, Russian information or um what is it called? Where a
artificial
deep fake.
intelligence, deep fake.
Yeah,
Guess
or
who's
deep
gonna be
fake.
that's gonna be affected more by that? Them dummies over there
Yeah.
voting Republican.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We're already
Like
seeing
that
it.
that
We're already seeing
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's already it was already so they've been studying since 2016 after all of that happened, right? And the highest targeted group for artificial intelligence was African Americans.
Yep. People forget then all them Facebook groups that popped up that was
Yeah,
supposed supporting black people. And now what's gonna happen with all this artificial intelligence is gonna be the same thing, man. It's
yeah.
gonna be the same
But if
thing.
they
But
go listen to what Elon Musk said
yeah.
about artificial intelligence, because he knows, because he allowed on his platform.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he knows how terrible it is.
Yeah. hmm Yeah. Most folks
He
know.
like the bots are really that bad.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, man.
But
All right,
all
bro.
right.
Shut this down, man. Final words for me is that, man, like people need to understand something, man. When it comes to voting, um, it's not about the party. It is
Mhm.
about the individual. The vote blue, no matter who, whilst I don't agree with it. You know what I mean? I would say vote blue because it matters to you. That's what I would say.
Mhm.
That's what I would say, man. Because if not, you are looking at an erasure of, you know, of 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 just your quality of life, man. Just your quality of life. Don't get so wrapped up into personality, right? You know what I mean? Sort of, where folks will be like, man, I don't like Joe Biden. I'm not feeling him. That ain't it. Like you said, it's the policy.
Mhm.
What is he passing? What is he passing? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to hurt Joe Biden if you don't vote for him and he don't become president. You're going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is going to go off into the sunset with his retirement from being a president with his money. He's going to go to Wilmington, Delaware. He's going to go to
Mhm.
his house and he's going to chill. Meanwhile, you're going to have to work till you're 70
Yeah.
and your children are going to have nothing. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So we can sit here and play personality politics. You know what I mean? We are beyond personalities. You know what I'm saying? This is about policy. This is about the continuation. This is about the stuff that did not get passed in the infrastructure bill that Joe Biden wants to pass that would transfer wealth to the middle class that he didn't get.
Yeah.
And you want to play these personality games about, you know what I mean? You know, you can play these personality games. I don't know, man. I don't know. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'll say it ain't about voting blue no matter who. Voting blue because it helps you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. What's up, bro? What you got?
Vote red, your future's dead.
Yeah. That's facts, man. That's
Like,
facts.
again, like, the final word would be like, man, it's not. I would. We talked about it many, many times. But man, I would love to hear an actual Republican with an actual plan.
They don't have
And it's not to say that, "Oh, well, I got a problem with Democrats." No, it's the fact of, no, I'd rather hear the different ideas.
one. Mhm.
I wanna hear new ideas, fresh ideas. I don't wanna hear someone sit back and, you know, tell my wife and my kids to get back in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Knowing that I personally, me, can't afford to take care of them on my salary.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no, look, we need help. So
Yeah.
we have to work together. And if the Democrat Party is the party that seem like they are thinking about ideas and new ways to approach things, and they have the policies, they have the things that will help my family grow and my neighbor's family grow, and I don't know their politics, but I wanna see them flourish.
Mhm.
Nah, man, I'm gonna do what's in best for them.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's pretty much it, man. That's how we gotta look at things, man. If you ain't looking at it like that, man, I don't I yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know what world you living in at this point, man. You know, because there's I don't want to extend this, but truth of the matter is Trump is he's just trying to avoid jail. That's all he is. That's why he's running
that's
for president.
that's the real truth.
That's the real truth. We didn't touch on that, but maybe we will as we get closer. All right, man. Yeah,
Alright,
I'm saying we are out.
outta here.
Hey.